So morning, everyone. Welcome to Revenue Ready. And today we have the wonderful, energetic Maryrose Lyons from Brightspark. And Maryrose is going to take us through all things Instagram. And I have to be honest and say, I know that I'm going to learn a lot today. So really excited, Maryrose, to hear what you have to say. But just very, very quickly, just a couple of things. We'd like this session to be as interactive as possible. So I'm going to moderate the chat. So please feel free to put some questions into the chat, and I promise we will get around to them. But just as a little opener, we realize that we're getting a couple of hundred people registered for these webinars now, and lots of you know us, which is lovely, but for those who don't, we are putting this Revenue Ready session out for people. It was our way of, I guess, just trying to say thank you to everyone in the hospitality industry for just working so hard during this awful year, and our way, I guess, of trying to help hotels as well. So we've got some great industry speakers who've given up their time, Maryrose being one of them. But our company actually is a revenue management software solution. So we provide rate strategy, forecasting, data analytics, and great reporting. And that's our system in a nutshell. But we're delighted today to have Maryrose talk all things Instagram to us. So Maryrose, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to let you start.
Thank you very much. I always love a good intro is a short intro, in my opinion. Here is my system, okay, for doing Instagram. And I thought that instead of starting with some stats on why Instagram is the #1 B2C social media platform at the moment and why you should be leaving behind Facebook a little bit, don't throw it away, but you should definitely be focusing on Instagram this summer. I thought instead I'm going to show you an example of how a 20, 30 or 40 something person plans a trip. For example, Adrian, a weekend away with the girls in Amsterdam, okay? This is literally what a real live person would do. So if you just watch this video, that's my phone. So you open Instagram and you go into search and you might look up Amsterdam hotels, okay? I just want to show you the experience that people would have. So you're going to click on tags because you want to see all the hotels that appear. So Amsterdam hotel, 5,000 posts. What do you see? Okay. Oh, sound. Quick, turn it off. I'm in the office. No, can't have sound. Scrolling down. Yeah, nothing really grabbing me here. Bit dark. I know it's Amsterdam. Oh, that's a nice picture. The Pulitzer. Meet quintessential Dutch elegance in a, you've lost me there. Yeah, I'm going to scroll down through these pictures. Bit dark at the end. Not really doing it for me. Sorry, Pulitzer Amsterdam, but no. Weekend with the girls, it's more like a retiree place. No, I'm going back. I'm going back to my search. Scrolling down. Oh, there's a nice image. Oh, that's gorgeous. Who's this? Hilton. Famous for the John and Yoko bed. Oh, I like it. Okay, let me scroll down. They've got some people there. That's good. Their promise. What's their promise? Can't read that very well. I might scroll through. Oh, sustainability. Okay, and their team. Yeah, no, I like their vibe. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I'm really liking their vibe. Oh, and they've got some good shots. Oh, imagine cocktails after shopping with the girls here. Oh my God, this is good. I'm liking the look of this. Okay, so how do I book? Right, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to go back up here to their bio, click the link. I want to see availability. Ooh, there's a lot to choose from. Indonesian, I always like a bit of Indonesian. And this is kind of where they've lost me because they're presenting me with a menu. Oh, okay. Well, no, I really want to stay here. Okay, and that is how a hotel can get a booking from Instagram. This happens every day. This happens all of the time. And I'm going to show you just a couple of little things that you can do right away to make your Instagram work a little bit harder for you. I'm going to show you, we're going to look at the bio. We're going to have a little look at your design aesthetic, hashtags, which are super important. I want to talk a little bit about content, and no talk about Instagram would be worth its salt without talking about influencers. So Before I do that, I just want to say hi, I'm Maryrose Lyons. I am the owner of Brightspark Consulting, which is the longest running digital marketing agency in Ireland. So I have been doing this for a very long time, and I've been around since the dawn of time, more or less. So I have seen the rise of Facebook. I've seen the switch to Instagram. We are living through a really rapid move to TikTok. That's a whole other story. But right now, I can tell you that Instagram is the definitive business to consumer social media platform that you need to be on. And the thing is, you cannot get away with simply posting what you posted on Facebook over to Instagram and hope that works. Last summer, I was hired by Fáilte Ireland to do some content to help the entire hospitality industry come back and get ready for staycation summer and to help people reopen. And I couldn't believe the amount of hotels, excursions, activities, everyone in the hospitality sector who just hadn't really got their Instagram game on. They hadn't got a design aesthetic. They had got good captions, but they were literally sharing the same kind of content from Facebook as on Facebook over onto Instagram. And I don't want you to do that. And I'm not just talking to Ireland. I've had a little look around the globe here, you know. So I've collected some of my favorite examples of some of the hotels who I think are doing a really good job on Instagram. And now we can look at them together and you can take loads of notes. And I hope when this is over, go away, talk to your team or make the changes immediately and measure the results. If you'd like to share your experience with me, my contact details will be down below. I'd love to hear how you're getting on. Okay, so I'm going to begin. Adrian, do we have anything to comment on, or are we good to go?
No, we're good to go. I think Paul's just put in the chat there, and I have to say, I think when you and I were talking, I said I feel like a dinosaur because I don't really use Instagram, and Paul's just said the same thing. He's never booked a hotel on Instagram, but it's really exciting to learn that this is potentially, it may not be for me or Paul, but it is where lots of people look. And I know certainly a lot of my friends use it and don't do anything without looking on Instagram first. So I think it's going to be really exciting to learn.
What I will say to you is that demographically and statistically on Facebook, the predominant age now is 45 to 55. And going a little higher, and everyone under 45 is over on Instagram. So the first thing I wanted to point out to you is, okay, if you're still wearing on your grid or your, the 9 squares, your grid or your news feed, if you're still wearing some images about, oh no, we have to close, COVID alert, oh, all that really sad information, go and delete that. It served its purpose. You don't need to leave that up anymore. We're coming into summer 2021. It's a whole new season, full of buzz and expectation. And those posts which served you well to communicate with your audience several months ago do not need to stay in your feed. So delete, delete, delete. Now, first up, I want to show you the bio, okay? So if you're new, like Paul or Adrian, you can think about your Instagram bio as like a little teeny tiny version of your website on Instagram, okay? It's almost like your home page. Okay, you can control several features. You can have your avatar pic, so you'll want to have your logo sized correctly for Instagram. You can have a headline. Now, this is a great tip for some of the more advanced people. When you open your profile, you click edit profile, there is a field called name. And that is the headline. And the words that are in that headline are searchable. And a lot of people make the mistake of putting up their username, which will be in this case, Molly Museum. And then under name, they'll put down Molly Museum. Okay. So the first advanced level tip I'd like you to take away is that if you have your name, for example, Hotel Bonaparte, for example, here is as your username, in the name field, you can put down luxury hotel France. And that way you're giving yourself an advantage to be picked up when people are searching, like the way I just showed you for the Amsterdam hotel. Then you have your bio, your description of what you're about. This is like, the strong statement you have on your homepage saying, who, what, where, when, why, how. That's what you need to be putting on here. You can add in your own hashtag if you have one, and you're going to put in a link. Okay, this bit here is known as the Instagram feed, okay, or we refer to it as the grid. And when there's an orange circle around here, that means there are stories in there, and that's the way you can click into stories, okay? So this is like what a bio looks like. And I'm going to just show you a couple of bios that I came up with preparing for this. So the first one here, okay, this logo has not been resized for Instagram. You know, that is really, really poor. And they have not filled in any information. And they're calling themselves Restorts. Okay, so they really need to go and pay a little bit more care to their bio. Here's an example of Bunratty Castle. This circle here around here shows that they have stories going on and they have a description of what they do. Yeah, and then they have their logo. It's good, could be better. This is the 12 Hotel. The 12 Hotel have got their Instagram game going on so well. I love what they do. And I'm actually going to book a stay there just because I love their social media so much. Okay. Now, what they're doing here is they have the 12 Hotel. Okay. They have Destination Boutique Hotel, which they could actually have that up here in the name field. They've got a nice award, and then they're using some little tiny element of emoji in their bio. And that is absolutely brilliant. We want to see some emoji in your bio because emoji are a visual language and Instagram is a visual platform. So the more you can show from the start that you're a visual communicator, the more people will be compelled to scroll down or to click into your stories. Now, these things here are called highlights. And if you consider these to be like the inside pages of your website, so this whole thing is the home page, and these are like the inside pages, or these are what you want to be known for. So in the case of the 12, they're talking Easter. They want to know everyone to know they're known for dog friendly, their cocktails, pizzas, hampers. Okay. And in fact, I love their feed so much. I know that all of those things are what they are known for because it's what they talk about quite a lot. Now, the rules for your bio, okay, there's always rules. Okay, so you can have 150 characters, which is quite good. I'm saying absolutely use emojis. You can put in some hashtags if you have your own hashtags. Don't just drop hashtags into your bio for the sake of it. And my top tip is for most things on Instagram, you're going to be operating on your mobile because it is a mobile app. But when it comes to writing your bio, do it on your desktop, because when you do it on your desktop, you can put in enters, you can put in line spaces, so it makes it really easy to line up your points underneath each other. Now, what I noticed here is that there's a bit of a trend going on with hotels. I don't know whether this is something somebody's taught out or whether everybody's looking at everyone else's stuff going, that looks really good, let's do that too. But let me take you on a little journey. This is the Savoy London. They've got lovely kind of like dark branding. They have their dark highlights showing. Here is Soho House. They've got dark branding. They've got their dark highlights showing, but I do like the way they're making the International Women's Day content stand out by using color. And they have tap to explore. They have an emoji in their bio. You can do that too. The Refinery Hotel in New York. Do you see what I'm saying about the trend here? We have our black and white. We have our dark emojis. And then they have a colored first one for whatever their campaign is that they're doing right now. And again, Dream Downtown's another New York hotel. I'm not too sure about the use of the emojis underneath their highlights, but at least they're trying hard. And this is an example of where if you have sister accounts, for example, bars or restaurants in the property that also have an Instagram account, this is a good place to put them in. Okay, so Adrian, do you know what you need to do now to get your Instagram bio looking fab?
Well, I think I know a little bit more, Maryrose. We've actually just, and maybe you'll cover this later on, but I'm just going to throw the question out there. Nicholas has just asked, what are the relevant metrics for tracking ROI on social media?
On social media or on Instagram?
On social media. Let's stay with Instagram, seeing we're talking about that.
We're talking about Instagram. I'm going to come up to that later on because no talk on social media would be complete without talking about the metrics. Right now, I'm just starting with the building blocks for you so that you can make some edits to your Instagram and then think about new ways of doing your content, and then we'll talk about tracking. But it's a good question. And I'm really glad that you're a man after my own heart, because I'm always the person in the audience asking the question about, but how do we measure it? What are the goals? Because that's the fundamental, I suppose, challenge when you're dealing with social media. If you don't have your strategy really clearly crafted and know what your goals are and therefore what you're tracking, you can go on the wrong journey and be posting the wrong content. And for an example, if you're starting out in Instagram, you should be all about brand awareness and audience growth. Whereas a lot of people will move straight into engagement metrics, and you shouldn't be trying to kind of track or go or win at engagement until you've got the basics done first, which is getting people to actually know you exist on the platform. So I'll come back to that in more detail later on, if that's okay.
Yeah, can I just go back to what you were saying there about those sort of dark colors, Maryrose? Are you saying that it's kind of a vibe going on at the moment, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do, because they all look very similar?
Amy. Yeah, I think it's too dark. Personally, I'm a color maximalist. I'm just going to state that, okay? But I just think personally, it's all a bit samey. I wouldn't be recommending you do it too. Unless your branding is a really dark black, try it up, stick to color. But I just find this is all too samey. It's not that it's black and white, it's just the same as everyone else's. But shall we move on to look at design aesthetic, because that kind of touches into your kind of how you're perceived and how you want to show yourself on Instagram. So I showed these two examples here of hotels. One is a kind of a city hotel in Melbourne, and one is a Mykonos stunning sunsets hotel in Greece. And what you'll find looking at these is like, they just look gorgeous, and if you ask anybody, what's your favorite Instagram account, they'll tell you an Instagram account. And when you go and look at it, you're going to see a kind of a style going on, okay? And this is no coincidence. So this hotel in Mykonos, they are all about their pool, their views, their sunset views over the pool. And therefore, the pool and the sunset and the views appear quite often, and they are styled in a beautiful way. They've got the same kind of filter and light, and they're all shot from a similar distance, okay? They're beautiful. I love what they've done in the middle here, the way it looks like it's all just one flowing shot. This one here, the hotel, you can see a kind of a color palette here. It's city views, it's kind of grays, it's pales. You're not seeing big bright pops of pink in the middle of this. You're not seeing big bright pops of blue, because it's a very carefully curated look and feel, okay? This I love. Can anyone guess what hotel this is? What hotel chain this is? I love it. It's basically Soho House. And their vibe is just warm. Like the color, the vibe you get off these images is warm. They're very strong on women, and they're very strong in diversity. Okay, so they're really, really showing what their brand values are about through their Instagram feed. Now, here's how you do it, okay? So this is the kind of thing I recommend. You go off and get your team together, and you spend 45 minutes to an hour trying to answer these questions, and the results will be phenomenal if you actually apply them into your Instagram feed. So the first thing is, you want to ask yourself, what do I want to be known for? Okay, so what do you want to be known for is kind of feeding into your brand values. So if you're lucky enough to have them written down, you just need to write down maybe 3 or 4 or 5 things that you want to be known for on your Instagram feed. And then you need to think about, well, how do we show them? And this is where you start brainstorming about the kind of images and videos that you'll already have, so you're already going to have some sort of a bank of assets. So you might say, we'll show these images and we'll show these images. You can go off and you can search. You can search on Instagram. You can search just on Google Images. At this point, you're looking for inspiration. You're trying to get down either onto a Pinterest board or onto a slide deck. These are pictures that represent what we want to be known for. They don't have to be your own images, but it's more acting as inspiration. And the magic thing that happens when you do this, Adrian, I've done it with so many teams, and this is the kind of a service that we offer, is to guide people through this design aesthetic. When you go and do this exercise and then you look at what you've done, you will see your own color palette emerge, which is amazing. So for example, if you're selecting a whole load of images that look like this, you'll be able to see, we're like a kind of an early morning light, lots of grays, or you might be a kind of a warm sunsetty greens and browns, okay? So the kind of color palette that is yours will emerge by the very nature of the pictures that you've chosen. And then the real way to make it look super slick is to actually go into a tool. I recommend VSCO. That's an app you can download for free onto your mobile. And in there are so many different filters. Okay, so what you can do is you can upload 1 or 2 of your images that you've chosen, and you can run them through the VSCO filters. And what that will do then is you can see the different kind of lighting effects, and you choose the one that you like the best. And all you have to do is write down the filter number from VSCO that you all like the best. And that's going to be the filter that you put all of your photographs through. So what it means is that if somebody provides you with an image and it's like really kind of bright, stark summer light, you just upload it into VSCO, apply your filter, and that image is going to have the same kind of hue as the rest of the images that are carefully curated for your Instagram grid. So that is a very top tip that you can do straight away. You don't have to have a branding agency, although that would be ideal. But if you're just doing it for yourself and you're trying to make your hotel's Instagram better, go and do that after the call. And the final thing that you can do is to select the fonts that you're going to use on both your stories and your grid. Okay, so the stories comes with a certain number of kind of pre-built in fonts. So really that's a case of just uploading an image, adding some text and tapping your way through the different fonts to choose the one that suits your brand the best. Okay, so this is kind of an example of this in action. Okay, here are two New York hotels. Okay, the one on the right, which would be my favorite, okay, just because I just love color. They are, they are color maximalist, and their whole what they want to be known for is speaking to the glitter and the excitement of being in New York. Okay, so, if this doesn't make you want to come running to New York for the cool glamour and style of it, like, I don't know what else will. These are all what we call in the industry thumb-stopping images. Okay, if you saw one of these images in your feed, it would make you stop and you'd go, wow, it's talking to party, it's talking to celebration, it's talking to all those fabulous fun things of New York. Now, on the other hand, we have the Refinery Hotel, which also is doing a really nice job on its Instagram, but they're doing much more sort of pared back, I should say, black and white, architecture. They're speaking to your New York experience from a kind of a architectural and experience point of view. This is the late night party. This is the kind of early morning having your breakfast. Looking out the window, what do you see here? Now, there's nothing wrong with either one, but the important thing is that the Refinery know what they do well and Dreamtown know what they do well. Now, if the Refinery had a fabulous shot of some sort of a party girl like this one, stepping through their lobby, they can still use that image, but they're going to use it over on their stories. They're not going to be putting it into their grid, which has a certain mood. And likewise, if the Dream Downtown Hotel had a stunning picture of like a meal or a breakfast that they wanted to show, they're going to put that in their stories and they're not going to put it into their feed. So if you put a picture of a breakfast in the middle of this, it's not going to work well. Put the breakfast over on stories, it'll be a knockout. So does that make sense, Adrian? Have you any questions on that at all?
I have loads actually. So I guess for me, not really understanding or spending a huge amount of time on Instagram, I am learning a lot. So the grid there is really, as you said, that almost like that first page of your website, that window.
Yeah.
That's going to give someone an idea of who you are and your branding. And I think what you said there, going back to, working out before you start anything, what you want to be known for, who you want to be. I think an exercise that I've done many, many times in hotels from a revenue perspective is asking the question, who do you want your customer to be? Not necessarily who are they now, but who do you want your customer to be? So as an example, if we're all trying to fight for staycation now, what does that customer look like? And you can see immediately that it's not just what these hotels want to be known for, it's the kind of people they're going to attract.
Yes.
So you can see the one on the right, the real party one, you're probably not going to have 55, 60-year-old couples going there, and you've got to have young, very exciting people wanting to go to New York for a certain vibe. So I think it's about your customers as well. We've got a couple of questions, if that's okay. One of them from Deirdre asking, is the VSCO filters better than Canva?
Good question, Deirdre. it's a kind of a different use. Okay, so Canva, well, yeah, you can do your filters in Canva. Canva is a brilliant tool. It's a kind of it's like an easy Photoshop for anyone who hasn't used Canva before. It is fast becoming the go-to design tool in the industry. And that comes with a lot of filters. So if you're familiar with Canva, go right ahead. But what we find with VSEO is that there's just an abundance of filters. So if you choose something in Canva, you could come on over to VSEO and you could even just edge it out a little bit more. You're just going to have just slightly more options.
Well, first of all, I'd like to know, will the SEO make me look 20? And
there are other apps for that, okay? there are other lights for that. Like there's certain lights. There's a light I call the 2005 lamp, and whenever I'm shooting video, I turn it on because it makes me look the way I did back in 2005. But that's a whole other story. Can I show you an example of what not to do on your Instagram design aesthetic?
Just because someone has joined late, and I think it's a really relevant question, because it's probably something I need to understand a little bit better, Maryrose, just before we go on. Can you please explain the difference between a grid and a story? So someone was a few minutes late. So
yeah,
my understanding is that grid is that kind of almost first page of your website to get people in, but I'm not really sure what the story is. So I'm going to let you answer.
Yeah, the grid, good question, actually. And here's the thing, okay, Instagram is a kind of a little mishmash of different parts to it, okay? And don't blame yourself. It's not your fault if you don't understand the difference between a grid and a story. It's kind of like, Instagram's fault because of the way it's kind of built, higgledy-piggledy. So it started out and it was just, the original Instagram was this, the 9 images, they're square, they're very stylized, very, very, very curated. And if you think of these as like the kind of the Vogue magazine side of your business, it's all the gorgeous glamour shots, okay? The stories are what came on in 2016. I've got a gorgeous graph to show you in a moment. They were a direct rip-off from Snapchat, and stories are kind of vertical. It's like the back of the house. It's more behind the scenes. It's more your team having the crack. It's the making of things. It's unboxing, and it's not as high production values. It's more like the Grazia magazine, or it's the kind of, it's still fun and relevant and tells a brand story, but it's not the super curated look. So I'm going to take you through the different parts of Instagram in a moment, actually, when we're looking at content. There's 2 other parts you need to know about as well. But can I just show you what not to do? Okay, because I'm showing you what to do. Okay, so we can all appreciate that for its beauty. But this is a hotel in Australia. It's quite a well-known hotel, and this is their Instagram. And to me, this looks like my photo gallery on a really bad day after a bad walk. Okay. Yeah, so you don't want to do that. And the other mistake a lot of people make is they carry over this kind of like graphic design approach to Instagram. And, we don't like a lot of text on our images on Instagram. Like, if where possible, don't put any text on, but definitely don't be putting captions onto the actual images themselves, okay? Because that doesn't work either. What does work is curation, okay? So if you are lucky enough to have people photographing your property because it's so beautiful, like in the case of Adair Manor here, okay? When they photograph your property and they tag you, those photos are shared on Instagram. Now, user-generated content is the most popular type of content. When I do all sorts of competitor research for clients, it doesn't matter what the sector is, it's always user-generated content that is the top performing over 3, 6, 12 months, whatever time frame you choose to look at. So when you take a user-generated image and share it to your feed, so long as you are crediting the original poster of the image by tagging them, in other words, @, put their name in, you're able to use those images in your feed too. So for example, if you're kind of saying, well, it's really hard to look like this all the time, you can look like this all the time with a little help from your customers who've been on, tagged you in a photo, and are giving you lovely user-generated content to use.
What if, Rose, someone tags you in something and it's not a particularly nice picture? Can you stop that, going onto your feed, or is that automatically on your feed?
No, it's if somebody tags you, they've tagged you in their feed. No, you can't, like, you could block them, but that means you're not seeing it. That's you going like this. You're better off knowing what people are saying about you. And in fact, when I have an online course where we look at research, and one of the really important things you should be doing is researching just your company name and your brand name to make sure that you are completely on top of what people are saying about their, about your company and their visits there. But we could do a whole other conversation on reviews and independent reviews and so on. But right now, I just want to show you another thing that isn't okay, is that it's not okay to put your logo on your images. This is an example of how the advice and the advice of what's cool changes over time. Okay, so I remember back around 2014, Gary Vaynerchuk came out with a book called Jab Jab something, I can't remember what the name of it, and it became the Bible for a while. And part of his thing was, you got to put your logo on your images, otherwise people won't give you credit. So some people are still doing that now. But you see, what I do is I operate at the intersection of where the features that are constantly changing on the social media platforms. And then the important bit is how human beings interact with them. So that bit where they overlap, where you've got the new features and how people use them, that's where I like to play. And right now, putting your logo on images is kind of old advice. And now we're just about letting the image stand for itself, using a really cool caption and really, really well-researched hashtags, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so is that enough on design aesthetic? It is quite a big thing, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you afterwards if someone wanted to find out a little bit more. If you're a bit worried that you're not going to be able to go through these on your own. Okay. So the next thing to talk about is content, and this is answering who asked the question about the content types, about the difference between grid and stories.
Oh yes, that's right. We had that question. I've got a couple more for you, so I'm banking them.
I love when people ask questions because it means you're listening.
So the first question I have here is, can you give any description of the biggest Instagram failure?
I don't focus on failures. I'm sorry, I don't. I focus on really good things that happen. I prefer to share stories of joy and things working rather than negative. There's a lot of negative.
I guess
too much negative in the world.
I guess what Nicholas is trying to say here is, what should you absolutely not do? So you've said, don't put your logo on and don't put too many images. Is there something that would be an absolute no-no from the start, sort of over and above that maybe?
Dare I be controversial and answer that by saying, you know what to me would be an absolute no-no? Getting your intern to look after your Instagram.
Okay.
And not giving them direction and not having a clearly communicated, written down strategy for what you're trying to achieve with your Instagram. Because I see this all the time where, the social media is seconded out to the most junior member of the team just because they always have their head in their phone. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but, you need to give people direction and you need to have a clearly written down reason why we're doing this. So for example, if your intern is kind of going off and sharing lots of images and driving engagement and you're going, well, why aren't we getting any sales in? If you haven't actually tasked that person to set out to do that and given them training and skills to help them get to that point, you're going to think social media has been a failure. She's going to think, or he's going to think, that they've been a failure. And the reason why is because you've made the number one mistake, which is putting your intern onto your Instagram without having a strategy. That's my answer to that question.
I think that's a brilliant answer, actually. And
Thank you. I see it a lot, and there is this. I'm actually addressing this problem in the next month or so. I'm repositioning. I have an online social media course, and I'm repositioning it to target new graduates straight out of college who need a commercial social media qualification. And the reason why is because I've seen so many employers going, okay, so we'll get in a graduate and they're going to be able to do this, 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 and this. And they expect 21-year-olds, just because they're 21, to be able to do strategic social media, which actually they can't. So my course is actually to teach them some of the basics around how to create a strategy, how to do your research, how to do content planning, and then kind of deep dives on Instagram, LinkedIn, influencers, and so on. So it is a very common mistake. And hopefully something that will be addressed later on this year.
Perfect, thank you.
Will I go on to the different types of content and which ones I recommend for Instagram? Okay. So it started with grid posts or news feed. Okay, so that's what I've kind of touched on before. It's the stuff that you see when you go into the bio. It's the 9 squares of stunning thumb-stopping images. Okay, what do you want to be known for? So there's like a stunning thumb-stopping image. This one here is from the 12 Hotel. They want to be known for that they're really near the Cliffs of Moher. And I know the image is very brown, but it's a very good kind of thumb-stopping image. This is the Dorchester. They want to be known for the amazing and immaculate service and, you know, from the moment you arrive at the door. So your grid shots have got to be gorgeous because they are the images that are going to make people stop and want to get to know you. Okay. Now, the next type of content that we have to choose from are stories. Okay. Now, stories are pretty mega. Stories are what made Instagram grow. Okay. So this graph here, I love. It shows you here, the yellow line here is Snapchat. They invented the idea of stories. So the whole idea with stories is that it's disappearing content. You can take an image or a video, you stick it out in your feed, and it's going to disappear after 24 hours is the kind of idea. Now, you can actually make it last longer by making it a highlight, but that's a different story. So what happened was with all these kind of teenagers who were using Snapchat, they actually got a bit more sort of looser and more expressive and had more fun with the app when they knew the content was going to be disappearing. So what happened? Well, Facebook, which owns Instagram, they just came in 2016 and they just directly copied stories. Okay. But because they did it on Instagram, there was a larger audience already there. And it was stories that actually compelled people to come over to the platform. So this kind of happened around the time, see 2017, 2018, where it really grew. I've lived through all of this. So basically what happened was Cambridge Analytica broke on Facebook. People were distrusting Facebook a little bit. So it made a certain kind of generation of maybe people who might have been in their, say, 30s, late 20s and 30s to take a look at Instagram and go, maybe I might give it a go. So they came over. At the same time, Instagram had kind of won the battle with Snapchat. So a lot of the kind of teenagers were coming straight onto Instagram. So Instagram was massively growing and it was all being fueled by stories. So what happened then? Well, Facebook decided to launch its own stories, which happened there in 2017. And one of the things you might actually comment in the box is, do you think that Facebook stories are completely naff? Or they're really cool? Okay, because not a lot of people are using Facebook stories. Okay, I find the people who do use Facebook stories, they're kind of using it by accident. Okay, this one here, the pink line, you're going to be going, what's this for? This is WhatsApp stories. Okay, so when you change your status update on WhatsApp, it's deemed to be a story. And it's used a lot by people in the States and the growth is amazing. Believe me, if these numbers went out to 2021, I'd have the graph in. This graph hasn't been updated, unfortunately. So it is a bit of an old data. Can you imagine where those lines go? We laugh in our office in Brightspark because we're always saying, when are they going to bring out Excel stories? We have LinkedIn stories, we have Twitter stories. I think I saw something about Google Drive stories and I just went, no. So the whole thing with stories is that it's short form video content. It's dramatically impacting everything. So since stories came out, the average length of a video that you get away with on Facebook dramatically dropped because you used to be able to run with videos of like 60 to 90 seconds. Now it's like, no, 30 seconds max. That's all the attention span you're getting. So if you can't tell your story in 15 to 30 seconds, you don't want to be telling your story. So the next part of the platform on Instagram you might want to take a look at is live. Now, hands up anyone during the first lockdown pandemic moment was turning on their Instagram around 6 p.m. and their top of their feed of where the stories live was just cluttered with lives. Yeah, every account and every influencer who couldn't go out and do their usual influencer thing switched to live. Live is kind of good if you have something that's worthwhile sharing in real time. If you have a really famous mixologist who does just amazing things with cocktails, I would most definitely be suggesting you run a live just around cocktail hour on a Friday night. If you've got a celebrity chef who loves to cook, do a live of that. this example here is an Indian hotel, and they're known for their yoga classes. So their yoga teacher started sharing lives of yoga classes during the last pandemic. So really what live is it's, you might be familiar with Facebook Live. Instagram Live is kind of the same, but just harder to promote. And it's where you have somebody doing their thing live, you can watch it, and rather like the Zoom here, you can ask questions and get them answered in the moment. I like to think of it as Telly 2.0. It's much more exciting than watching real-time telly. And it works really well for Q&A and interviews with famous and important people. So live is something to kind of think about and perhaps include in your content mix. And then we have IGTV. Okay, so I love this graph, and for the person who asked the question about, you know, stories, etc., and the length of stuff, this is a great graph that shows you, and it goes right up to November 2020. So this is like pandemic year in action, okay, starting in January 2020, and it shows you the engagement rate on the different types of Instagram content. So as you can see, carousels get the most engagement. That's where you have several images. I'm going to show you an example in a moment. Photos are next, Reels came along here, video is here, and IGTV is the bottom. IGTV, to me, is video that we couldn't make in under 60 seconds, or it's where we told the client it needed to be shorter, but they wouldn't let us edit it, okay? So your length of video for your grid is 60 seconds, okay? And if you make a video that's longer than 60 seconds, it has to go into IGTV. And what you can do is you can set it so that the first 60 seconds appears on the grid, and then they have to click this button to come on over to IGTV. But a lot of people just don't like leaving the platform where they're on, okay? Because IGTV is a kind of a separate platform to Instagram. So my advice to you is to really work hard at telling your story and curating and condensing your message down. 15 seconds for Instagram story video, 60 seconds for your grid video. And if you have, for example, some Instagram lives that you've made of your mixologist doing their thing and their chef doing their thing, by all means, share these on the IGTV platform as a kind of a content series. But otherwise, do not let your IGTV become the home of 1.5-minute videos that just didn't fit.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Emer. So if you're putting a short video, 15, 20-second video, can you put that on your grid as well, or should that be kept in stories?
No, you can have, good question. You can have a video of 15 seconds on your grid, absolutely. But the question is, two things. First of all, what type of look is it? If it's beautifully stylized, okay, it's going to go on your grid. If the lighting's a bit dodgy, if you kind of made it yourself, it's going to go on stories. And then the other thing with stories is that stories are vertical, okay, and your grid is square.
Okay.
Last point on this slide is Reels. Reels was launched last year. I don't like Reels. Reels is another Instagram doing a direct copy of TikTok. And what I'm saying to all my clients is that if you want to be on TikTok, be on TikTok, okay? The difference, I think the mistake that Facebook, group of companies made with Reels, is that TikTok has got such a cult following. They've copied something that's a cult following, and all of the people on TikTok are looking at it kind of going, well, I share my stuff over there, but like, I'm not going to live over there. And that's generally been the vibe. So even though Instagram paid massive influencers loads of money to come over and make Reels and be exclusive on Reels, so far the research is showing that Reels is not winning. And for that reason, I'm very glad. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay, so questions I'm often asked about Instagram content are, you know, how long, how much, when, how can I do it? So I'm going to try and answer those questions for you now. So this is just answering the question you had there, Adrienne, about on your grid or your feed, your options are you can have stylized images, or you can have up to 60-second video, or you can have carousels, which are stylized images put together. Stories, you have vertical images, or you can have 15-second video. And IGTV is anything longer than 60-second video. So we're all clear with that? Okay. Now, the reason I need us to be clear on that is because I'm going to explain to you how the Instagram algorithm works, okay? So Don't shut your mind off at the word algorithm, okay? This is really important that you understand this, and this is pretty much how they do it, okay? And it works for pretty much all social media platforms. Okay, so when you produce a piece of content, be it a video, be it an image, whatever you're putting out, and you share it on Instagram, Instagram will show it to about 10% of your audience. So if you've got followers of, like, say, 16,000, and you think that every time you put something out, all 16,000 people are seeing your stuff, nah, that is not the case. When you put out your content first, 10% of your audience are going to see it. Okay, so that's this kind of inner concentric circle. Based on their reaction to your content. So in other words, if they like it, if they comment, if they dwell a little bit of time watching a video, for example, if they flick through your carousels, that sends some signals to the Instagram algorithm, which gives you a little green light in my head, okay? And then that sends a message, and the algorithm then releases that content to several more people, okay? So that's where it goes out to an outer circle. And then based on their engagement with it, it will release it to several more and several more. So when you have a piece of content that's going viral, it's where it's traveling really, really far out, and it's traveling out beyond the 16,000 people who follow you. Now, you might be wondering, Adrian, and I see you're just about to ask this question, how can you make your content travel beyond the 16,000 who are following you? And this is where the joy of Instagram hashtags comes in. So this is the slide I use to represent the joy of adding hashtags to your content. So before, when you put out your content, your image, your video, you wrote your caption, it traveled out amongst the circles of people who know you. With hashtags, it increases your reach, increases your possibility of being discovered. And it means that when that first initial piece of content is shared, it's also shared to people who follow those hashtags or who are interested in those hashtags. So they may not be following you. And if they like and comment or watch your content, that's going to send a message to show your content to even more people. So the conclusion from this, my friends, is that you need to be using hashtags more than ever on your Instagram posts. Okay, so what we find is that your standard kind of Instagram grid post has a shelf life of about 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so you'll know this when you've put content out. You'll see, you'll get a whole burst of engagement in that first day, and it'll kind of keep on delivering maybe in the second day, and then it kind of stops. Okay, so when you're planning how often you need to post, you can actually just plan around that. You don't need to do a post every single day on Instagram. Okay, you can do a gorgeous post on a Monday, and then you can do another one on a Wednesday or Thursday when you've let the Monday post run its course. Now, what can happen is if you've got a gorgeous post that goes out on a Monday and it's absolutely flying, stall the next post, because you don't want to kill off your engagement. If you have a post that's doing well, let it run, because when you post a new post, it's going to kill the old post. And not a lot of people realize that. Too many companies schedule all of their content for the month ahead, and then they let them run. So if you've got a kind of a potential viral success on your hands, they're going to kill it themselves by the fact that the content they've scheduled for the next day is going to stop the one that's doing really well. So with that in mind, I would like to just take you through the Brightspark approach to hashtag research, okay? And this is of fundamental importance. And again, it kind of points to the fact that if you read everything, if you trust everything you read that's written online about social media, sometimes you're getting bad information, okay? So about 3 or 4 years ago, I used to tell people as well, like, it was okay to go with about sort of 8 or 12, between 8 and 12 hashtags per post. But then, since the number of users on Instagram has increased to over 1 billion, it's become a much noisier place. And we have to make sure that we're using all of the 30 hashtags that are available to us. So what happens is that if you come along and read an article that was written 3 years ago, you'll go, okay, I'll just do 10 hashtags. So actually, you need to stay up to date with the research, or follow some influencers that you really like and trust, where you're going to get your up-to-date information. And if you like to follow my blog, we share an awful lot about things as they're changing and tools you can use and so on, okay, just to kind of keep people informed. Okay, so you need to use 30 hashtags. You don't just go out and pull off any old hashtag, okay? what you need to do is you need to research hashtags. You want a couple that are in the kind of 500,000 to 1 million mark. Okay. Anything above a million, the velocity of that hashtag is traveling too fast and no one is going to see it in their feed. So you're just wasting one of your 30 hashtag opportunities by using something that's got like 6 million on the numbers. So you might be wondering where these numbers come from. If you open up your phone right now, click on Instagram, open up your Instagram, click on the search, type in any word like hotel Amsterdam or what have you. So I'm looking up hotel. Go over to the third tab and you get to tags, and that's where you get the numbers for the hashtags. Okay, so hotel has got 33.2 million posts. I would hope that anyone watching this is not going to use hotel. So what you need to do is scroll down the list and see the suggestions that they offer you, and you will find better words that come in around the 500,000 to 1 million mark. Now, most of the hashtags that we research for our clients are going to be in this kind of hardworking mid-level. So 10,000 to 500,000. These are hashtags that are going to be seen, that are going to be followed, and they're going to help your post actually travel further than your wildest dreams. You might have a couple of niche hashtags that might be specific to you, your business, your location, things like, shop local, or, really rooting yourself into the city or town or location that you're in work well here. And then you might have some brand hashtags, which would be around things like, your promise, or things that have been kind of determined from the start what they should be. So go and do a little bit of research on your hashtags, come up with lists of 30. So you might have a list around your location, you might have a list of 30 around your room, you might have a list of 30 around your service. And then when you're putting out a post, choose the correct list of hashtags and assign it to the caption. Adrian?
Yeah, we've just got some questions in. So someone just asked, was it 13 or 30? They misheard, so you've answered that, which is 30. But could you just go back for Kira and you give that example of how you find those hashtags again on that hotel Amsterdam example? And then I have one more favor to do. I'm very
okay. Yeah, I'm just conscious of time here, okay? So I don't want to go over your time. When you open up your phone and you do a search in the Explore tab of Instagram, type in any word and you'll see 3 tabs. Click on the one that says tags, or better still, okay, a tool that we use is Meta Hashtag. metahashtag.com. It's a free tool. You can type in any word. It's going to show you the numbers that that word has as a hashtag. It'll show you other words that might be better. And I love it. And you can do an awful lot of damage on it before they actually start asking you to pay. So that's one thing you'll find with me. I love my tools. I hate paying exorbitant prices for them. So I'm always on top of the best kind of free ones that you can use.
Okay, and before we end today, Maryrose, we've had about 5 or 6 people just asking the slide that you showed about 3 or 4 back, just with the length of videos on.
Yeah, there it is. Screenshot that now, guys, or take a photo and then you have it.
Perfect. Yeah,
okay.
That's perfect.
Cool. So moving on to content, okay. Question I'm often asked is, when should I post? When should I post? And like what you were saying, Adrian, about getting really in touch with who your future client is and who you're writing for, okay? This is where you want to be really clear on who you're actually writing for and when they're likely to be online. So young mums with babies are going to be online, for example, during the day, whereas, your working public are usually coming online after 6, okay? You can look at your analytics to see what days your actual audience are on and what times. But the one thing I would point out is that any of those apps that promise to recommend the best time for you to post, they're only recommending it based on the times you've only posted at in the past. So I don't really like them. They're not that great. In terms of what images and content and videos and stuff you use, I've mentioned this already. This is your options. Okay, you've image. You can have up to 10 images in a carousel. You've got videos and you've got graphics. I'm not a big fan of the graphics, actually. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so engagement. This is the question that somebody asked before, which was really about what levels you can expect. So I suppose your question was about what the metric should be. So my answer to that is the metric that you are tracking on social media should be directly relevant to your strategic objective. So for example, brand awareness is going to have different metrics to, for example, engagement. But because so many people fixate on engagement when it comes to social media, I've shared here some of the median engagement rates that have been achieved in the hotel sector. So this is for all hotels, this is what works, okay? Carousels in 2020 were getting 1.1%, images were getting 1, and videos were getting 0.61%. Okay, so carousels are your best option here, and look no further than the Hoxton Hotel, who do a great job at using carousels. So this example here, just to show you what a carousel looks like, you've got your lovely cutie dog pic, and you can flick through it. There's the book they're referring to, and there's a kind of probably a stylized image from their asset bank showing that they're dog friendly. Okay, so here's another, let's see, anything that has this kind of little mark up at the top, you know, is carousel. So here's an image here of lovely flowers, more of flowers, more of flowers, more of flowers. So they do a really nice job with carousels, okay? Carousels get better engagement, and they also send good signals to the algorithm, because when you're clicking through, you're spending longer on the image, and that's a good thing. So just going back here, can we see this slide okay? We're back here.
Yes, perfect.
Great. Okay. So just continuing on with this, I really like what the Hoxton Hotel do with their images. Okay. So they have gorgeous images on their grid, but they're not all kind of like, here's a room made up with nobody in it. You know, they show messy duvets like this one on the right. And it's not like a kind of a table and chairs with a view. It's like an interesting shot of somebody holding a glass. So it's kind of like my ask of you is, if you look at your feed and you're seeing lots of, you know, the kind of shots that were done by a professional photographer of the room really well made up with, you know, kind of a chocolate on the pillow and so on, they're not the kind of images that are going to excite people on Instagram. What will excite people on Instagram are either kind of like stylized images of the outside of your property, okay, because that's what people love, or they want to see pictures with people in them, or pictures with personality. Okay, so moving on to personality, this is where your caption comes in. So as I said before, it's the image that makes people stop and, in other words, know you, okay, but it's the caption that makes people like you. And when we're doing social media, we're always trying to move people through the funnel of know, like, and trust, which they have to go through those stages before they buy. So your caption is something that should not be overlooked, okay? It's a really important thing to spend a little bit of time on your caption. So really, when we're looking at captions, we start off by deciding, are we doing a conversion post or are we doing a conversation post, okay? Because a conversion post is where it's like link in bio, or click the link, because that's what the goal is. If it's a conversation post, you're asking for opinion, you're asking for comments, you're asking them to tag people and so on. So you've got to be really clear on whether you're going conversion or conversation to start out with. Begin with a headline, a really good question or a stat to grab people's attention. Learn to communicate through emoji, okay? That's all I will say, okay? Instead of bullet points, you need to have emojis. At the end of your post, don't forget to have a call to action, okay? So click the link in bio if you want to book a room in the hotel. Click the link in bio to find out more about Indonesian afternoon tea, okay? So don't forget to spell it out to people what you want them to do. Tag people or brands who are relevant in the post and use your hashtags, okay? Bonus tip for you guys is that you should be on top of the feature accounts for hotels, okay? There's an awful lot of, I wouldn't even begin to start giving you a list. There's loads of Instagram accounts out there that simply exist to bubble up really good content coming from hotels. So what you should do is make sure you've got a good 3 or 5 of them in a list. And when you're doing your post, drop some of them in, tag them in. And what will happen is that if you tag them, they get a notification that they've been tagged in your post. They'll have a look at your post. And if you're really lucky, they'll share your post in their story, which means that you're opening up to all of their audience of hotel lovers. So it's a really good thing for you to do. Now, that's captions. Stories are easier because it's kind of throwaway, it's kind of fun. You only need to use you can use less hashtags on your stories. They can be less professionally made, but they're more real. And the really good thing about them is when you make a good story, you can save it to your highlights. So it means that it sits as long as you want it to sit on your bio. Main things to remember with stories are always use your location tag, use your hashtags, and I've got great ways. You can check out my blog of kind of putting the hashtags in and kind of hiding them so it doesn't really mess up your image. And then again, tag people so that you get noticed. These are what highlights look like. Okay, we've seen them already. And again, back to the more metrics, okay, your average engagement rate. This is a really good one for you to take a photograph of, okay? So for hotels and resorts, okay, the average engagement rate per post is 1.03%. Don't beat yourself up if that feels really low. That's just a fact of life, okay? A lot of people are watching and not necessarily engaging. The average number of posts that is put out by your competitors are 2.9 per week. Now that's versus an average of 4, okay? I would be going with about, around 3 or 4 for yourselves. And I'd be mixing it up though, 3 or 4 grid posts, and then I'd be mixing it up with some stories. There's again the engagement rate by content type. And last but not least, I'm going to just mention influencers. But before I do, Adrienne, do you have any other questions you want to bring into me?
No, I think we're flying through now. We've got a couple of people apologising that they have to jump off. So I think this is really important to get this bit across before anyone else needs to leave, just due to
Great. And I'm apologising because we're 3 minutes past 11. And I hate these kind of things that go over time, and that's my fault. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, so basically no talk on Instagram would be complete without mentioning Instagram influencers, okay, and influencers in general, okay? Like them or loathe them, Instagram influencers are here to stay, okay? And the reason why is because they are getting more engagement with their audience than even ads, okay? And Instagram is beginning to go the way of Facebook in the sense of engagement with brands is starting to go down. And this means that if you need to get in front of large swathes of people who exactly match your target persona or demographic, you need to be looking to influencers as a way in there. So when I work with my clients, I'm very much around selecting micro influencers to work with. So in other words, not the big name people who are charging, upwards of like 800 or 1,000 euro for a post. I'm much more about finding the up and coming influencers who have a nice audience size, they have a good level of engagement with their audience, and they're willing to create content and kind of meet you and work in kind of a very kind of cooperative, kind of co-created way. You must have a budget for ads for social media these days, and what I'm suggesting is that you can actually divert some of that ads budget into influencers and measure what brings you a better result. And if the influencers work better for you, I'd be funneling more of that ad budget into your influencers, and we can have a whole other conversation on influencers some other day. That's all I had to say.
Maryrose, honestly, that was like, there's a saying, being fire hosed, you're just...
Oh no!
Yeah, but brilliant. That is brilliant. I think there was such a lot there. And I think what that probably tells me and lots of people who joined in today is we're going to ask you back for another session. If that's...
Oh, I'd love to come back.
Because I think the influencer comments, I have to say, in my consultancy days, a huge fan of influencers because I just saw people taking and taking and taking from hotels and not really giving a lot back. But I'd really like to understand
and manage them well. Yeah, you got it. Like there's an approach that's kind of been worked out because it's so new, and we now have a kind of a systematic way of reaching out, managing them. And a lot of the work that I do with my clients would be we do this reach out, and then I'd be on the first call negotiating that first deal. So I'm showing my clients, this is kind of the stuff you're asking for. And that's very much how I work, is kind of mentoring. So it's like I'll show and then they can do the subsequent calls, or I might sit in on another call where the kind of deal has been made. So it's about co-creation. I think these influencers, I don't exactly love them all, but I think they're amazing. I've so much respect for the amount of hard work that they've put in to build these really engaged audiences. So as a brand, if you're not using them, you can go the hard way, which is to try and do it yourself. You can try and buy your way in through Facebook and Instagram ads, which people don't always trust. Or, you can, invite some influencers to start generating some content that will make your property look amazing and will bring a whole new audience to you.
Well, if anyone wants to offer me free stays, free spa treatment.
Me too. I haven't got my holiday 2021 booked. I was planning on going back to Africa as a kind of I haven't been there in like quite a few decades, and I don't think that's happening. So I've got nothing booked.
Well, I'll joke.
We'll be changing that.
Maryrose, thank you so much. We've had some lovely feedback. Just to let everyone know that we keep this as a closed session, so only the people who registered will get copies of this session today, but we'll make sure that that is sent out with the full recording. We'll make sure that you all have Maryrose details. Thank you, Maryrose, for your time, and thank you. We're very strict with our presenters that they don't get to pitch their business, but if anyone would like to contact Maryrose, there's a lot of knowledge there. We'll definitely send out your details. We hope to see you next week. Actually, do we have one? No, next week is Easter. The following week, we've got the wonderful Craig from Big Flavour joining us, talking about making sure that your brand website is, content perfect to get ready for opening and revenue ready. So listen, thank you so much, Maryrose. You're a star. You are.
Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it, and thanks for moderating it so well. It's a great session.
Yeah, listen, thank you for giving up your time as well. I know a huge amount of work went into this, so thank you. And we'll see you all next week, hopefully. Thank you.
Happy Easter, everybody. Thank you.